We will go to our political panel now. Joining us this morning is David Seymour, ACT leader and Deputy Prime Minister, along with Chlöe Swarbrick, the Green Party co-leader. Good morning, guys.
Morena.
Good to have you here. So let's start with butter. We had a meeting last night. In fact, the ACT Party, I think, met with Miles Hurrell from Fonterra too, but the Finance Minister did it. Honestly, are we going to get anything out of this, David, or is this just a bit of hype?
Well, I meet with people like Miles Hurrell from different parts of New Zealand's economy and society just about every day. So it's not unusual to have meetings like that. I think what is happening at the moment is that we're very lucky as a country that dairy prices are high because that's bringing in exports. But it's also raised a real problem that when prices rise, our incomes struggle to keep up with them. And so there's two ways you can look at this. One is to criticise the fact that the prices are high, they're set overseas, and they benefit New Zealand farmers. Or we can ask ourselves, how do we ensure that New Zealand has a growing economy, a high wage economy, so that when prices spike like this, it doesn't have a big impact on families? Because right now it's dairy. I filled up my car the other day for $2.35 for 91. That used to be over $3. A few years ago it was that price. Maybe next year petrol will be up again for some reason.
Yeah.
Dairy will be down. But the consistent theme is that we need to be a high wage economy.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I guess the question is whether, because people are being given, I think, a false sense of hope that Nicola Willis can go talk to Miles Hurrell and all of our problems will be solved, or that she can threaten the supermarkets and all of our problems will be solved. I just don't believe it. Chlöe?
I mean, there's a lot of strong words from this government, but next to no meaningful action. If the government really wanted to do something, it would be moving at pace with regard to breaking up the supermarket duopoly. That looks, of course, like greater transparency around particularly supply chains. And there's been a lot of words on it, but not a heck of a lot of action. And just actually, to David's point, we currently have an economy where the top 1% in this country hold 23% of the nation's wealth. That inequality is directly causing the poverty and the low wages that we currently have in this country. So we need to address those issues
you're saying
head
other
on.
people's success is making people poor?
I'm saying that inequality
is
is directly causes. David, if we are willing to accept a small group of people at the top of the pecking order holding the majority of the resources in this country, that necessitates that there will be people who are going without. That is how inequality creates poverty. So yes, I do believe that we should have intentional redistribution policies.
Untrue.
David?
Because the assumption, it's really interesting, and I'm really happy we're having this discussion. Because what
David's assumption is it trickles down.
There's only so much. There's only so much to go around, and the only way that people can succeed is to take from others who have. Well, the truth is, if you look at people in New Zealand, you look at Graham Hart, one of the richest guys in the country, started as a tow truck driver. You look at the Mowbrays, now have a massive and very successful business, mainly out of China. They grew up poor in the Waikato. If you look through the whole list of people that have done well in New Zealand, most of them started poor. So the idea that we're going to solve our problems by pulling down people who have worked hard and succeeded is wrong. What is right is that we need a good economy that grows, that gives people opportunity.
I mean, he has a point, Chlöe.
If I may address that.
Get away from the zero-sum thinking.
Yeah.
If I may address this head on, what David is currently trying to sell the people of this country is a continuation of the 40 years of trickle-down based economics, which have clearly not worked for people. We've seen a selling off, Ryan, if I may finish, we've seen a selling off of state assets whereby New Zealanders still need their energy, New Zealanders still need housing, but are now paying for a far higher cost because they are being facilitated by the private market. So yes, we do need to ensure that we have a fair tax system because frankly, I think that it is so unfair that the average New Zealander in this country pays double the effective tax rate of the billionaires that David was just citing.
Yeah.
Well, once again, we've had that debate many times.
Yeah, we have had this debate many times.
And the facts are abundantly clear.
The reason that power prices are high...
Hang on, David, to bring it back for everybody who's watching this morning, are you going to get anything out of a meeting that Nicola Willis has with Miles Hurrell or by threatening the supermarkets? The honest answer from both of you would have to be no.
I think people have misrepresented the whole purpose of the meeting.
Well, she's not unmisrepresenting, is she? You know what I'm saying? It's good from...
Well, I know, but you carry on.
Right, let's talk about the med school. David, you have claimed credit for this $200 million saving for the taxpayer. We had Nicola Willis on yesterday, then taking credit for the same saving. And then we had Winston Peters, who got quite testy over this, claiming credit for the same thing. Who's right? Who gets to claim the credit? Clearly, is it a group decision?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right that Cabinet makes group decisions and what happens in Cabinet is confidential, so I guess anyone could say anything. Where there's a difference is that the ACT Party is the party that went into the election saying, we don't like this. We said, look, in our coalition agreement, we might support it, but we need to see the cost-benefit analysis. Over the last year or so, we've constantly pushed it and asked the question, said, where's the analysis? How can you do it cheaper? And what's happened is that when the government first considered it, it was $280. Now the taxpayer is going to pay
it's 80. Okay, so you're still claiming credit.
That's $200 million through that process.
Totally.
Now, lots of people can claim it was them, but we're the one. You can look up the ACT Party coalition agreement and see that it was us.
Right, because Winston says he asked for the review and he asked first. He's wrong.
Well, I mean, he ought to have put it in his coalition agreement if that's the case.
Okay.
But it's ACT that did, and I think that's probably a more credible story.
Interesting. All right. Chlöe, the med school, in principle, a good idea because it's going to help service rural GP shortages. It's going to do... well, GPs and rural doctors shortages is what they're going to focus on at this new school. So you're on board?
I mean, in principle, sure, it sounds good, but the question has to be, what are we actually trying to achieve with an investment like this? And we could increase the number of placements at our currently pre-existing medical schools if the government decided to make that requisite investment. We could also decide to make GPs free in this country if we fixed our tax system, which is obviously the proposition of the Green Party. But again, if we're to come back to the fact that this government has managed to find tens of millions of dollars for investment in the health and the education sector, then it can find it for investment in those broader spheres by allowing for greater placements for those in our pre-existing medical schools right now.
Okay,
and just to David's point around saving $200 million, well, they've decided to spend that on taxpayer-funded subsidies for new fossil fuel exploration in breach of our trade agreements.
Homelessness. David, homelessness. Do you accept that it's worse, particularly in the cities, that homelessness has gotten worse under this government? And is that just a logical flow-on effect of when you've got unruly tenants in state housing that you're now booting out, and you have a change to the emergency housing policy, and families are put before individuals? Is this just a natural flow-on effect from that?
No, I don't, because there's another part of that story that you're missing, is that thousands of people under this government have been placed in secure long-term housing. Previously, the government spent exorbitant amounts of taxpayer money to pay motels to have people stay there. Very good business for some motels, I guess, but not a secure place to live for families who found themselves in really rotten conditions. And actually what we're doing, making sure that people have secure homes where the kids can go to the same school 2 terms in a row instead of getting moved from one place to the next. That's what this government is doing. There will always be people who will say, oh, but there's more homeless out there. They have no proof of that. It's a good attack line for an opposition if they found themselves out of government. But my challenge is, what is the alternative? Put people back in motels or keep putting people in secure housing, which this government is doing?
Yes, fair question. Chlöe?
This government has intentionally increased homelessness. I don't know what else you are supposed to call it when you're forewarned by your own officials with the direction of travel that you are making with your policy that you will increase homelessness, and then you receive reports that tell you that homelessness has increased off the back of the decisions that you have made.
So would you, because here's the question, Chlöe, would you prefer that instead of people living on the individuals living on the street, that we had them causing problems for other tenants in state housing environments, or that we had them back in emergency accommodation?
We can walk and chew gum, Ryan. So this looks like actually properly investing in wraparound support for those who need it. Without doing that, we're putting people out on the street where that is a pipeline into our criminal justice system. And as we know, the longer that people engage in that criminal justice system, the worse the outcomes actually get in the long run. So again, we can do both things.
All right.
But let me just give you a really clear insight into in December last year, Minister Tama Pōtaka received a homelessness insights briefing from his officials that told him that homelessness had visibly increased in our major centres and in our rural centres. Then in January of this year, he and the Prime Minister had the gall to stand in front of television cameras and celebrate reaching the 75% reduction in emergency housing figures, completely neglecting the fact that they had done so by pushing more people out onto the streets. The data and the evidence is clear,
Chloe,
but it's also visible.
But most of those people got out of emergency accommodation and into homes. That's the fact. So that is worth celebrating. Yeah. Yes, you may have...
I mean, these are the facts that are known.
Yeah.
But then we also know...
I mean, all we're getting is sound bites and slogans.
No,
the homelessness has visibly increased. You know, I mean, that's an anecdote, Chloe. It may have been an anecdote that was put in a report by a bureaucrat. It's still an anecdote. The fact is we are moving...
We have to leave it there.
I need to challenge this.
Well, there's no hard data yet, is what he's saying.
That is the right thing.
There is hard data from Christchurch City Mission, from Auckland City Mission, from Wellington City Mission, from many councils and homelessness groups across this country that have reported directly to the government that homelessness has increased, and you only need to look at the reports from police as well. This is hard data, but you also can just open your eyes and walk around the streets of this country to see that things are markedly getting worse as a result of government decisions.
David Seymour.
And what you won't see is all the thousands of people being moved.
Guys, we have to leave it there.
Housing.
We have to leave it there. I appreciate your time this morning, Chloe and David.